Thomas Jefferson, Jeffrey Epstein, and yeah, America has always been like this. Let's talk about it. I've said this before, Thomas Jefferson is like my historical arch nemesis. I find him fundamentally hypocritical and I hate everything about him. Thomas Jefferson was the third president of the United States and one of the authors of the Declaration of Independence, in which he wrote that all men were created equally, right? So he did decry slavery pretty routinely, but at the same time was a slave owner. Oh, and not to mention was sexually assaulting an enslaved child and then woman for the entirety of her life. Thomas Jefferson sexually assaulted Sally Hemings from the age of 14 for the rest of her life. He met her at 14 when she was a child. He first impregnated her forcibly when she was 16, and he ultimately had 6 children by her, all of whom he enslaved, right? This is psychotic behavior, which is to say that Thomas Jefferson, one of the first presidents of the United States, engaged in the very behavior we have read about in the Epstein files. But it doesn't stop there. Let's zoom out and look at the history of enslavement as a whole. What you have learned in school has been incredibly sanitized. You have no idea how brutal, how disgusting, how psychologically twisted that institution really was. And they do that all in part to save white feelings from being hurt, but also to perpetuate this idea that America is this shining city on the hill, that it is exceptional in nature. Let me tell you what happened to enslaved people. Among many other things, they were literally bred. Slave owners would sexually assault their own slaves, both as a form of psychological torture and dominion, but also to create more enslaved people. Despite the horrors of enslavement, these enslaved people did form families. They fell in love and they created children, but they were never promised the life together. They were routinely torn apart, sold asunder, sent to different plantations, and they had no means of keeping track of one another. Slave owners would also just torture enslaved people for the fun of it, right? It was entertainment for them. And you also see that in the Epstein files. And forced labor and deprivation of regular human necessities were truly and fundamentally baked into the system, right? These enslaved people were not fed normal amounts. They were not housed in good conditions. They were not really given that much shelter. They were not given medicine. They were not taken care of. And you know that Declaration of Independence that this whole country lauds as this beautiful founding document? 56 white men signed that document, and 41 of them were slave owners. Of course, those men had children of their own, white children, but also a significant percentage of those signers of the Declaration of Independence had Black children begotten from enslaved women. At least 12 of the United States presidents owned enslaved people, 8 of whom did so while